Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Hosted by me, Dr. Sharon Cradle and Sherelle Higgins. We will be discussing intriguing, intricate, inspirational, informative, and intelligent topics with our individual twists and talents.
We will present real stories, real solutions, and engage in real talk.
So we invite you to be our company every Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock p.m. as we focus on transcendent thinking that will move you forward. You become the company you keep.
What company do you keep? Oh yeah, we are biological sisters by way of the south side of Chicago. So get ready to keep company with us and our guests as we talk about it.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show today. We are here and we are excited for today's show. And those of you that are on Facebook following us now, you already know it's going to be a hoot. So please let all of your friends know to tune in so that we can talk about the furlough is over, now what? And so we also have Sherelle.
Yes, I am Sherelle Higgins, and I am the favorite co-host of this dynamic duo. And so I am excited that we are here today to talk about the end of the shutdown and what it means and how we go forward. And so it's gonna be a lively conversation.
And as you can see, we do have a guest here with us. His name is Fernandez Corey Vines. And Corey is also a federal government employee, and we just thought it would be great to have a second voice, since I don't work for the federal government, to have a second voice about what's happening at the various agencies as you all prepare to go back to work. We're also going to try to talk a little bit about R. Kelly, but I don't know if we're going to make it to that segment of the show, but we'll try. But anyway, as normal, we would like for you all to tune in to listenvisionlive.com so that you can see the show in its entirety and so that we can get the ratings. And also, we would appreciate you to call in at 833-202-8255. Before we get started, you know, I always start with the scripture, but today what I want to say is God is good all the time,
Yes, he
and
is.
all the time, God is
Yes.
good. Let's say that again, everybody in unison. God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. So we knew that this furlough wouldn't last forever because
troubles
nothing does.
don't last
And trouble,
always.
remember, that's the song we used, that's the song we started with last week. Trouble don't last always, and so we shouldn't faint, you know, when things don't go the way that we think they should go, because all of it is part of a bigger plan. And so I'm so happy. I'm not a government worker, but I'm so happy that the furlough is over temporarily until February 15th.
Speaking to his
I'm not claiming the temporary part.
At
We are
least-
back in business.
Yeah, at least until February the 15th. And so we know that the furlough, all of those employees who were affected, it lasted 35 days, right?
Yes.
It impacted over 800,000 workers.
Plus contractors.
Plus contractors, and yes. And I think we have to have a conversation about the contractors because I just, understand that their situation is going to be different.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then we come back, and nothing was accomplished from the government as a result of the furlough. So what now? So what we're going to do is ask Corey to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll engage in the conversation.
Okay, so my name is Corey Vines. I am a HR professional, over 20 years of experience, both in private and public sector. This is a very interesting conversation with me because I've lived both lives. And I've been in the federal government less than probably 4 years, and in the private sector, at a different public sector, publicly traded companies. So supporting the federal government here in the Washington metropolitan area. So this is a very interesting conversation to me because I see both sides of it. And actually being an HR practitioner with my sister Sherelle, it should be a very interesting conversation.
Yes, exactly. So, and you all can chime in and say whatever you want to say. But what I want to ask is, Corey, I know you and I talked last week, and before the announcement that the furlough was over, you all were making some transitions back into your agency. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. So now what? Talk to us about that.
Well, one thing that did come out, and I think everybody that is a federal government employee or a federal government contractor knows that that not only we're going back on Monday, but it looks like that they're trying to get everybody back paid by January 31st. That leads to a couple of different scenarios and situations. Each agency has a different payroll provider. Most of them have a National Finance Center, which is NFC. Some of them is Department of Interior, NBC, and others like myself and DFAS. What's going to be interesting in how each payroll center approaches, because there could be some liabilities for the employees if the deposits, the payroll one and payroll, when we talk about payroll, we're talking about different payroll cycles. So payroll one, payroll two, payroll cycle one, pay period two. These payroll periods, from my understanding, from my side of the shop, may be all one big deposit, and that might be that's going to be a detriment, because that's going to lead people into a higher tax burden if that is the case. So what I'm hearing from the NFC side is that it's going to be maybe January 31, but it will be 2 direct deposits on that same day, so lessen that burden. But with
So let me make sure I understand. So there's some conversation about the back pay being provided by the 31st, and instead of giving it as one lump sum, they're going to give it on that same day in 2 separate paychecks.
Yeah, for the NFC side, they're issuing one paycheck, and then they're going to issue the next paycheck, but they both will hit their bank account on the same day.
Oh, okay.
And then that way everything stays normal, and you don't pay higher taxes.
Okay, I like that. But if they don't do that, that's what a higher tax.
If they just do one lump sum, just pay people for 160 hours, then that's going to throw them into a whole different tax bracket.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting option. And so if that happens, what has to happen with your payroll system to ensure that 2 deposits can be made on the same day? Because I know you probably have to make some adjustments.
Well, yeah, they had to make some adjustments. And remember, this is unprecedented.
Right.
And so the systems are very antiquated. And so they had never had a situation where they had to run payroll on an off cycle.
Okay.
So they've been testing it over the last 30 days to figure out, because they didn't know how long it was going to last.
Right.
So they were testing it to see. And so apparently once finalize your time cards for pay period 26, then they went on and ran payroll on those time cards.
Okay.
And then you process payroll pay period 1, and then they ran the payroll on that. So that's how they were able to do it in order to get it. And all of the payroll for the NFC side has to be in by 3:00 on Monday.
Okay, so let me educate, just for those of you who do not work for the federal government. Sherelle just mentioned pay period 26, and those of us who were on that pay cycle, you get paid every 2 weeks in a year, which means you have 26 pays. But if you are getting paid once a month or twice a month, then that's 24/12.
Right.
And so that last pay period for December is pay period 26 that Sherelle was talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
And pay period 26 ended December 22nd, which
Okay.
was the first day of the furlough.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
And so some people, if your regular work schedule was included that Saturday, you only got paid up to that Friday. And so some of those people got to go back and do corrected time cards.
Okay.
For pay period 25. That's pay period 25. They had to go back and do corrected time cards so that they could get their pay for that one day.
Okay. Interesting. So we have a caller already, and so if you all don't mind, we'll take the call and
Okay.
then we'll continue the conversation. Hello. Welcome to Sisters in Company. Hello, caller.
Yes,
Hi.
I'm here.
Yes.
I have a question for Corey.
Yes.
So, Corey, I know you as a person, so can you give the details of the impacts for the everyday worker in government and what they had to go through and deal with through this whole process?
Okay, that's
Very good question.
That's a very good question. The impact, so there's different levels of impact. First, there's the furloughed employee that did not receive a paycheck and they were home essentially. There was the accepted, which went to work and did not get a paycheck. Okay, so you're working for free. Then you had the exempt, which were, the appropriations, they were found funding for them to keep their FTEs moving because their roles and responsibilities were critical. However, the callers regarding, kind of leading to is that the impact and we were talking about this off air, the impact of those individuals and those skeleton crews still trying to maintain essentially operational status led us to a conversation to have what is deemed mission critical, and then what's not mission critical. And I think the interpretation from different agencies are happening, but it really is going to impact two things. I think we are going to have it's going to be a revolt out of the federal government for those, especially those new graduates that just came in and they're saying, why am I doing this? Well, I can go to KPMG or Deloitte and make more money doing the same thing, supporting the federal government. Those individuals, those practitioners, like Sherelle, who's been in the good fight, she's like, okay, countdown. 3, 2, 1, retirement. Okay?
Right.
Yes.
But what are we also talking about with like the people that are contractors, the people that are
Right.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to jump in that.
To bring in those people that you were expecting to get, those professionals that, you're talking about a president that said, bring in your professionals from the private industry, right?
Right,
so
absolutely.
You have that opportunity to not now get those people because of this.
Absolutely, it's not an attractive situation. Now, for example, I came from the private sector before coming to the public, and if this happened 3 or 4 years ago, there's no way I would have taken less pay. I'm gonna say that again, less pay. There was a significant drop in pay for a strategic thing. I said, you know what, I can be more effective to this company, to this country, to this agency if I was behind your firewall and doing the things that I need to do to be successful. That ain't happening. But with that being said, the impact, there's a waterfall effect. I'm going to use project management terminology. There's a waterfall effect that is happening that when we talk about the new day 1 to February 15, you're going to see that if you're not leaving the federal government, you're definitely going to leave the agency that was affected by the furlough. Because you're going to want to go where you're going to be funded and you're not going to be put in a situation again.
But here's the thing: there's no guarantees, right?
No,
because this time it was our turn.
Yeah.
Next time it's going to be somebody else's turn. And come October 1,
Right.
most federal agencies' funding's in, and something new has to be negotiated. Some agencies have 2-year money. I get it. Some people have no year money, but a lot of federal agencies have 1-year money, and the end of the fiscal year is September 30th.
Right.
And so you could jump ship, right?
But that
And go
doesn't-
to another agency who was funded throughout this process, but come October 1st, it might be that agency's turn.
I totally agree, but let's talk about people. People will jump.
Oh, no doubt.
Oh,
we had
yeah.
we had
Oh.
quite a few
People
people leave.
Yeah.
And that's one, it's going to be a natural attrition because they probably won't work anyway, and then 2, you're going to have those individuals that felt this bite, but you're also going to have those but we're not going to get that level of talent that the government desperately needs.
I think in the short term we're gonna struggle with talent, but I think in the long term we're gonna recover
When everything settles.
when everything settles down.
Yeah,
because the truth of the matter is, and I said this last week, the truth of the matter is, in certain areas of this country, the federal government is the best show in town. And there are places in this country
Utah.
where it's the only show in town.
Right.
And so people have very limited options. And so in the Washington, D.C. area, of course, we got a gazillion options, but it's still all federal. And so it's still the best show in town. Did we have to take some pain? Absolutely. Did they dog walk us? They did.
Absolutely.
But in the long term, I think we're going to recover because we're going to still be the best show in town. And people are going to want to come. Not right now. Nobody's going to want to come right now, particularly not knowing
Graduates.
what's going to happen over these next 3 weeks and at the end of that, right? So particularly not right now. But I guarantee you this time next year, Americans, we got short memories. You know, we'll be on to something else, and it'll be something else we'll be talking about, and people will be pouring into the government and still trying to get into the government.
And then to address what the caller was talking about the contractors, I think that's a different type of conversation, and I think it depends on the contract, where you work, and the rules around it, whether or not people were still getting paid, you know, if they stop getting paid, what level of work are they committed to. So I think there's going to have to be some conversations with the people who are in charge of those contracts around what that looks like.
And I think it has a lot to do with the company,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it had to do with the company and how companies value the people that they employ. My husband worked for a contractor. He worked the entire time, right?
I've heard, yes.
So it depends on the company you work for. And so maybe that's something you look at, right? If you worked for a company who said, because we all know in the contracting world, either A, they already got their money, or their money is coming. And so if they kick their employees to the curb during this process and not giving them any back pay, that's what you should look at.
But isn't the money based on the work that you agreed to do?
They already got paid.
Okay, but so I'm thinking that there has to be some conversations.
Well,
around
that depends too if it's a
Yeah.
firm fixed price contract versus a time and
Right.
material contract. I think I want to kind of move back into the middle lane here and then simply say that, you know, when we're talking about the contractors in that effect, I can talk about from our agency perspective that we did have fully funded contractors, but because our contracting shop said, hey, we need to put all this money into central, you know, the working capital fund to fund these mission critical occupations, then that stops. So
Yeah, so
you know,
I think that the conversation of contractors get somewhat more difficult.
It's very complex
Yes.
because, and then you got to add in the small businesses. You know, our
Exactly.
agency is a small 8/8 component. You know, they love small businesses.
Right.
You talk about the veteran-owned businesses. You know, and then there is the 30 days small businesses get paid.
Right.
Right. You know,
So you got to pay them penalties when you don't pay them on time.
and there's going to be some.
Oh, absolutely.
some penalties.
It's a lot of impact behind this shutdown. A whole lot of impact that people just don't realize. It's not just about shutting down the government and the 800 people that got impacted. You know, it's the families. It's the small businesses. It's the people at the corner store. It's the metro. It's, you know, it's everything because this 800 population of people can impact the economy,
800,000.
right? We weren't out shopping. We were only buying the bare minimum. We weren't gassing up our cars. We were staying home. We weren't going out to eat. You know, so a lot of things got impacted because the government was shut down.
Thank you, caller. I know you're on hold. I don't want to have you on hold. I hope that addressed somewhat of the question that you asked.
But here's what I want. I want to talk about the
Absolutely
feel-good
does.
stuff.
And I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to even have this discussion. And I think that Corey, just from working with him in prior government experience, he is an excellent person at what he does. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Kudos to you, Corey.
Yes.
I got to pay you, bro.
But, you know, here's what really warmed my heart through these last 35 days. The level of outreach.
Yes.
And the support.
Yes.
People stood up and said, we're not going to let you suffer. These big banks, these big businesses, the electric company, the cable company, the cell phone company, your neighbor, your friend on Facebook, people you
Yes.
didn't even know, sent you money, brought you
Yes.
bread, brought you toilet paper. Are you
Brought you
kidding
some
me?
beer.
My girl brought me a 12-pack and something to eat. Right? My other friend got me Ciroc because she know that's what I like. And
Some what?
Ciroc.
Oh, Ciroc.
Yes. So
Flavored or not.
flavored pineapple, of course. So you know, people stepped up and helped.
Yeah, that's the American
And-
way.
And you know, I tried to push it, right?
Yeah.
Because one thing about me is I'm all about trying to support somebody else, and I don't want to see anybody suffering. And if I know anybody who is suffering, I'm gonna try to help out, right? And so for me, it was that made me feel good that people really
Yes.
stepped up and tried to help the 800,000 employees. And people, you know, just having a conversation last night with somebody was saying that they didn't even think about reaching out to me to see if I knew somebody who needed help, because they're not on social media.
Right.
And so they said they didn't even think about that. But, going forward, just because we had that conversation, I
Now they
expect
know.
this person will, be more aware now. And so the whole notion that people stepped up, and for those who were furloughed, who also gave back to people
yes,
because
yes.
they could,
Yes.
I applaud you.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking
And I'm gonna tell you,
about.
the Cash App challenge that we did, it just took off. Sherelle
Yes.
started it, and then we posted it on our Sisters and Company page, and people really were reaching out to me like, give me somebody's name.
Right.
And things like that. And so that is the beautiful thing. We have another call, and then we can get back to the conversation.
Okay.
Hello, caller. Welcome to Sisters and Company.
Hello, how are you doing?
We're doing wonderful. How are you?
Okay, I just wanted to call, commend you for the topic that you're discussing today. You have a pretty good panel. But the comment I wanted to make is that everything that you're talking about and what happened, we really appreciate what's going on with federal workers. But in the private sector, that happens on a day-to-day basis.
That what?
so
Can you
there
repeat
are
that?
No guarantees.
Oh, no guarantees, yeah.
People in the private sector
Right.
can walk in tomorrow and they can say, you know what?
Yep.
We're going to move this department
Yes.
to the West Coast. I mean,
Yes.
so that ripple effect of what you guys have just gone through, even though it was malicious, it is a day-to-day reality for the private sector. And it's hard for a person who's never been in government to, totally understand, what you guys go through, because we work in a zone where there is no guarantees and no protections.
Right.
When you get furloughed in the private sector, that means
You laid
you're
off.
fired.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And you don't get no back pay.
Exactly.
There is no back pay.
That's right.
So again, I do appreciate it because it gives us in the private sector an opportunity to say, okay, here's what's going on. Really there's no guarantees nowhere, but here's what's really going on, how it's impacted. I know one of the persons on the panel, and once you touch the airports, I knew it
That was
over.
it. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
So, I'm
I
sorry.
knew it was over. But listen, a very good topic, and please continue to educate us about what goes on.
Yes, because we want to make
in the
sure that
government
people
sector.
understand what's next.
And-
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody had a question. Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Somebody
Thank you
had a
much.
question on Facebook about do the people who didn't have to work and who didn't who just stayed home during the furlough, do they get back pay? The answer to that is yes.
Absolutely.
There's a few caveats, right? If you weren't coming to work before the furlough and you were in a leave without pay status, you're not getting paid, right? Because you were already accustomed to not getting paid. So
That's called a non-pay status.
right, that's called a non-pay status. So yeah, so there's a few caveats like that, but for the most part, everybody will get back pay.
And so, what should the employees that are going back expect tomorrow?
Confusion
Okay.
Yes.
and chaos.
When you say confusion and chaos, can you be specific?
Because 5 weeks is a long time to be away from your job.
Okay.
And so when you go back into the office tomorrow, the leaders, some of your leaders have been on furlough for the last 5 weeks too. And so now, we have to regroup and we have to decide what the priorities are, right? And we have to decide, and that's going to be
Yes.
different, for
Priorities.
each team. So we got to decide what the priorities are. We got to get people access to the systems because you only got 30 days not to log on, and then you get all sorts of issues, So people got to get caught up. People got to spend probably the next 2 weeks talking about what they did in the furlough.
Right, exactly. That's what I was going to say. The water cooler talk.
Not
catching up.
this straight up cubicle. This ain't a water cooler talk. So that's gonna happen tomorrow. So the production, it's not just lost production for 5 weeks. Now we're talking about what's gonna happen in 3 weeks. So now we're talking about lost production for 8 weeks.
Right.
Because federal employees, even though they tired of being furloughed and they ready to come on back to work and all that good stuff, that's not about the work, right? That's more about their checks.
Checks.
Right.
And so they're going to spend the next 3 weeks saying, Whew, I ain't about to be doing all that because we probably gonna be shut down in 3 more weeks.
Yeah.
Ain't no sense in me starting on that because in 3 weeks I'm not gonna be able to finish it. And so that's what's gonna, that's the chaos and the confusion that's gonna be happening tomorrow.
I think that is a very realistic view. I know from our agency that the biggest thing on the HRT side is that the access. It is going to be a nightmare. Now, thankfully, we have a leader that's in place that we have already set up a triage system to ensure that our HR specialists will be able to get into USA Jobs, and we use USA Staffing, which is a recruiting tool, our PD library, all of those things. But here's the thing: if there's anything that's broke, now I got to worry about bringing back my contractors,
Right.
who were doing my operations and maintenance for these products. So there is and I think Sherelle hit it right on the head. You're going to have this. Okay, I'm just happy to be back. And then we go into the second week. Now, what can we do? So, leadership is going to have to say, okay, here's the things that we can do well right now. Okay. And then try to keep people focused because everybody's going to look in the back of their minds about February 15th.
Right.
And by the way, we do need to talk about, Nancy.
Nancy Pelosi.
We're gonna get to that.
We're gonna go there. Yes.
And then we're talking about, how
Yes.
is that one thing I want to say from this perspective, and I thank you for this, inviting me. What is critical is that we have to go out and vote.
My goodness, we've been talking about that every show.
Have to. This is
Yes.
what happens when complacency sets in.
And
when
the minority runs the
stop,
country.
we got to get out of the news cycle, and we
Yes.
got to get from our local perspectives to our local leaders, to our congressional Black Caucus folks, and those who are in positions of leadership, like Stanley Hoyer, who's been in my district forever. We need to see return in investment.
We do. We need to see
Okay, so that is something that now we can walk down. I call her Gangster Nancy because
I call her boss lady.
Because she walked that thing down, and it gave us a lesson on patience.
Yes.
And understanding the process.
Right. And that she does. So let me just say this to you all. And I know we want to stay focused, but a couple things. When I think about all of the employees going back to work tomorrow, and there has not been an opportunity for the leaders to sit down and prioritize and plan to receive the employees, I'm thinking to myself, wow, what does that really look like? So employees just come in, they just try to figure it out, because you all really haven't had a chance in your agencies, have you, to really put a plan in place to receive your employees?
Okay, so I think I'm a good leader, right? I'm just going with it. You might find one or two people. I had some people on the show that said I was a good leader, so y'all know y'all got some proof. So as a leader, right, I've already put my stuff in place.
Okay.
Right, I already know what my priorities are.
Okay,
I've already scheduled a staff meeting for first thing in the morning.
All right,
I've
good.
already decided, to send the welcome back email tonight, so that's the first thing they see when they get in the office in the morning. I've already planned to greet my team with a breakfast.
Yes.
I've already planned to greet my team with a lunch tomorrow to welcome them back into the workplace.
That's what I'm talking
because
about.
I know what my team went through. I'm prepared to say to my team, I apologize that you went through this, right? Because as a leader, it's easy to lead when it's easy, when things are going well. But right now, our teams need us, and they need us to come in there, and they need us to be strong. They need us to be prepared.
Yes.
They need us to be focused.
Yes.
They need us to be transparent.
Yes.
They need to know that they have somebody that they can depend on
cares
to
about
have
them.
these conversations. I'm gonna have a staff meeting. I'm gonna let my team talk about everything that happened during the furlough, right? That's what our staff meeting gonna be about. And I'm gonna spend about 5 minutes talking about what we're gonna focus on first, and then I'm gonna let them spend the other hour and 25 minutes talking about what happened at the furlough. You know why? Because when that's over, everybody done told their story. They can go do their work.
But I like that. Go ahead, Corey.
No.
That.
We
Yeah.
actually there was emails going back and forth this weekend, and our division leader reached out to all of the leaders and said, hey, what we're going to do, we're going to bring donuts, coffee in. I know there's going to be a dog and pony show with senior leadership at the main campus where hey, welcome back. But for our folks who are not GS 13s, 14s. These are 7s and 9s, and some 12s, and we're talking about 12-step ones. And for those in the private sector, understand that's entry level money. You know, so this hit them hard. So we need to be, again, to Sherelle's point, very transparent, very open, and understand that this was a significant hardship. And, you know, and at some point, you know, I would like to get to the conversation of the financial trickle-down effect that it happens, because some folks' credits, you know, and we know we talked about some of the organizations.
Right.
You know, I know Navy Federal Credit Union. Big up to you, y'all took care of my family. Hallelujah! But I'm just gonna
Because
say
you were 2 household furloughed
Let's talk
family.
about that for a
But
second.
hold on for a second. You just said something, and Sherelle, I saw that your eyes welling up. And this is what I teach in leadership. I think the biggest opportunity for leaders in today's time and in the future is showing some empathy. You know, to be empathetic to what's happening with your employees. And it's just not business as usual. You know, you're talking about people's livelihoods, and we've heard all of the horror stories. So thank you all for showing some empathy to your staff. And those staff members, that's why they want to work for you, because they know you care. Right? You're not going to accept any excuses, but you care about them and their well-being. So, yes.
You know, one of the things for me, I'm going to tell you, I'm about to just really like applaud my team, because my team stepped up during these 5 weeks. I had a call with my team, and I, you know, just kind of talked about the importance of giving back, right? And based off that call, I started seeing and hearing about how my team was helping each other out. For those that were struggling, here you go. This is what I got to give you, right? And based off of that, one lady on my team is, I think, first generation American, right? And so her upbringing taught her how to give a little differently. And so I said, let me challenge your thinking on that. I said, you know, you don't always have to give people money, right? Or you don't have to actually go out and buy people stuff. I said, almost every household has extra soap, extra toilet paper, extra paper towels, extra toothpaste. Put it in a bag and give it to somebody, because now the money that somebody else had to give them, they don't have to spend it on that kind of stuff. And after we had that conversation, she took off. She took off. I mean, she was taking care of a lot of people. And so I applaud her for that. So, you know, for me as a leader, you know, before I could even have that conversation, I wanted to model the behavior. Right? I knew some people on my team was struggling. So I just sent them some money for Cash App, you know, because I knew I was going to be all right. Right, I have a support system. You know, I reached out to my support system and told them what they could do for me. you know, so I had a few extra dollars that I could give to somebody who was hurting a lot more than what I was hurting.
Exactly.
And so because of that, my team took off. They started taking care of each other so well. I stepped back and just kind of watched it happen.
And I know that we're the now what is based on the 2 agencies that they work for. But what I'm going to highly recommend everyone to do, because my sister sent me something from her agency, you need to go on your agency's website. Right? You need to, I guess, like Sherelle and Corey were talking about, the emails that are coming. You need to start looking at your emails so that you can know exactly what you can expect walking in that door tomorrow.
And do me a favor. I put this on Facebook yesterday.
Yes.
Do me a favor, federal employees.
Yes.
Do not call or email your human capital professionals unless it's directly related to your pay. Because when I tell you tomorrow we're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to be trying to make sure everybody get paid.
That's
and
the
because
priority.
at my agency, I'm in charge of payroll, right? And so I always say to my team, y'all can have the credit. I just need my check. And I haven't got my check in 2 paychecks. So here's what we're going to be busy.
Right.
And please read the guidance.
Yes.
I promise you, we try really hard to put everything in that guidance that you need to know. So please read the guidance. I was working over the weekend, and I kept getting questions from people who the answer was in the guidance. So now I had a statement that I started emailing people, and it read like this: I'm sure you can appreciate the number of emails that I'm receiving right now. So what I need you to do is to read the guidance, because the answer to your question is in the guidance.
Spoken like a true HR professional. So we had this conversation. I think I went back to work on January 14th. So, but we had a nightmare because we only not had we had partially exempted.
Oh, interesting.
So our payroll is all confuddled. Okay.
Yeah, we have something like that too.
All confuddled. We're talking about at least 1,000 though. So it's so you to get people to read, and this is a federal government employee thing. Let's just go. I'm gonna go all into y'all right now. You got to take time to read before you start calling. Now we have set up a help desk. It's called. We have a help desk that takes on FAQs and HRs, but it's gonna be blowing up, and there's limited personnel so they can actually handle all those questions. Take the time to go to your right now. Even if you can't get into your computer, you can go onto the public-facing website of your agency and read the information that's there before you, because it will help you because it's going to answer a lot of the questions. I know we put out guidance. And then we sent notices that we revised the guidance based on whatever payroll provider DFAS was telling us, or our any agency agreement holder. So it was messy, but but we had to do it because we wanted to keep the public informed, right? So, and one thing we did, the agency, we did have an open house for our furloughed employees on Thursday. So we wanted to give them an opportunity to get into their emails and we had to do that separate furlough letter. For those that don't know, if we didn't get another furlough letter, well, then CFR 5, it actually says that you still wouldn't be RIFed. But the point is...
Yeah, the RIF doesn't apply to shut down furloughs.
It doesn't, right? It's emergency preparedness.
Wait, let me touch on that.
Go ahead.
Pay attention. RIFs, don't call me tomorrow and ask me about this. RIFs do not apply to lapse in appropriations furloughs. It only applies to administrative furloughs. So we had a lapse in appropriation furlough. So RIF does not apply. That's reduction in force. So don't call and ask us about that.
Trust me. And don't call your employee relations folks too, because they're going to get bombarded with the same things. So what's happened is that when they get those 30-day furloughs, we wanted to make sure that they can at least get in. So we had our security stand down, come to our specific location where IT set up computers.
Okay,
and allow them to, sign and be. And we had our payroll and our retirement benefits team there, and our labor employee relations teams there to ensure that we can answer some of those FAQs face to face, right?
That's
and
good.
And we just wanted to soften the burden just a little bit so they know that their agency did care, right? We just didn't wait until now. But you know what? We're still going to have a segment of the population that's going to come in tomorrow, and they're still going to be, well, when am I gonna get paid? And we understand that. We have to empathize, and that's why it's very critical that we're there, we're open, and we're listening.
So let me ask you all this. So the questions that you may get, we know it's going to be around when they're going to get paid and how they're going to get paid and the taxes, maybe not. But what other questions should your team be anticipating that people are going to ask? Because what I'm thinking is the benefits their health insurance wasn't impacted, was it? Okay, so what other type of questions would your team have to field?
Unless there's a caveat, a TSP.
Yeah,
we had, and one thing we're doing through the furlough, we created a tracking database to capture all of the inquiries, so we can do a lessons learned from what was doing here. And one of the things that we were trending the TSP question, the benefit question, because they didn't read guidance,
right? Because a lot of people had TSP loans. Right. And they, you can't just be missing your TSP payback because that got tax implications. So, luckily we came in under the threshold on that, and they were actually already in the process of working with TSP to make some exceptions for people, but people.
So say that again so people can hear that loud and clear, because I think that's important. You came under the threshold of the 30 days.
It would have been if you would have missed 2.5 payments for TSP.
Okay.
Then at the end of the quarter, which would have been March 30th, they would have you either would have had to pay up. If this had continued on, you either catch your account up, or they would have reported the withdrawal to the IRS as a tax as income, and so you have to pay penalty and taxes on that.
But that is not an issue now.
That's not an issue.
All right,
That's not an issue. All of your deductions that you had coming out your paycheck will come out those paychecks. So you don't have to. You should not be getting billed for anything.
Okay.
If you're on the NFC system, let me say that. You should not be getting billed for anything. All of your deductions, your allotments, everything, your CFC contributions, all of that should catch up.
And anybody that wants to call in, because this is such an intriguing conversation, to me at least, because I don't work for the federal government, 833-202-8255, and make sure that you are tuned in to listenvisionlive.com.
Okay, now I say let's move over to some comedy.
Okay.
Did y'all see 45 come out there to make the announcement about the government was going to reopen?
Why he kept talking about?
Wait, hold on. Did you notice they sent his behind out there by himself?
Absolutely.
Oh, I
It
didn't see
wasn't one person standing in the background. It was like, you created this foolishness. We're not with you. You're on your own. Because when he did the last time, he was talking about trying to convince people. He had 3-4 people standing behind him. This time they were like, nah, bro. And Nancy Pelosi said, oh, we having a staring contest?
Yeah.
I think what was interesting of his whole announcement is that he got out the way and said the scripted.
Right.
You know, he had to script it. Now he had to come out because, you know, as a narcissist, he had to spin it to make sure that he didn't lose. He didn't look bad.
Well, they said that the teleprompter went out.
Oh.
The teleprompter went out.
Somebody pulled that plug.
Yeah, so he had to wing it, and that's where he started going downhill.
But you know, and this goes back to something that's just near and dear to my heart: leadership. You know, how can you be a leader and be incompetent?
Right.
You know, we talk about being promoted to levels of incompetence, and this is what you're seeing. And Nancy, I think she tried to handle him very gently, but then she had to show him. You know, but in her own way, she had to show him that you don't know what you're doing. You know, and
because when a woman is fed
exactly, and it's just, and for the American people to bear the grunt, for the American people to bear the grunt of this is unbelievable.
It really was.
It was, and then to the point that when you are struggling, and again, for a while it was two households. You know, it was two. You know, me and my wife, we were both furloughed.
That's right.
For a while, and the only thing we wanted a solution. Right. But then you had to be in this, what we talked about initially, you're talking about patience and poise. You know, she knew process and policy. The first thing she said, well, I'm going to take this pulpit away from you. You're not going to have a State of the Union until this. No, only thing we want you to do is
open the government.
So basically, who's running the country? Ann Coulter?
Right. Yes.
And Ann Coulter called the boy a wimp.
Right. Yeah, because, you know, they don't care.
And she was on Bill Maher Friday.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, you know, but my point is that, you know, in time, 45 will be shown for what we all know he is. And the question is, you know, can a president be indicted? They're still trying to figure that out, the Department of Justice. The answer is probably is yes, but they won't do it because it'll be setting the precedence.
But that don't mean they won't be waiting on him when he walk out that White House.
When they walk out,
and at that point, he won't be able to pardon anybody, right?
Exactly, and that's one thing now. So as this Mueller investigation continues, as the House now tries to get, and the Democrats have to be careful, because I would love to come back and talk about the political field at some point, the Democratic political field, because it's going to be, there's a lot diversity
going on. Yes.
And we want what's best for the country, that we don't want to have what we had happen in 2016, right? So, but Nancy is now positioning herself. It's like, okay, now you were the grown up in there. We need you to compromise. Give the guy 2.5, because if anybody knows anything about contracts in the federal government, just because I give you the money doesn't mean you're going to get the money.
Right.
Or doesn't mean you're going to spend it.
Doesn't mean you're going to spend it.
Exactly.
And you still got to solicit. It can't be a sole source award, not that level of scrutiny. So what's going to happen?
Can I say something about that, though? But it's about the American people, right? And his base in terms of what they understand, because they are some interesting people. And, you know, he will be able to spin it. We kind of see it differently, but they'll be able to spin it like he won. And I just think it's just a complicated situation. And sometimes you just have to hold the line.
You do.
Right? You got to hold the line if it doesn't make sense. And why are we putting on and creating this fake crisis. You
Yeah.
know, and so I think the Democrats really have to be careful, but I think they have to take a couple pages out of the Republicans' book and hold the line, right? Because we know that when President Obama went into office, the very first things that Mitch McConnell said was, we're going to make sure that he's not a successful president, that he's
And he
a
a
one-term
one-term president, right.
And so what I'm saying is, no, you don't want to go eye for eye, but I think you need to take some pages out of their book. They're like, hey, you know, we're not going to help you to be successful. But the Democrats have a different kind of platform because they're thinking about all people, right? And trying to rise above the chaos and the pettiness, because some of it is just so pettiness and the racism and the all of that. They're trying to rise above that and bring this country back together because it's in a dire state.
Well, you know, 45's numbers, his polling tanked
Oh, yeah.
doing this, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, some of his supporters who were directly impacted by this,
Say it
singing
again.
a different tune.
Say it again.
They like, this is not what I voted for. There's some foolishness. And, you know, yeah, I was all, you know, chanting for the, you know, who gonna pay for the wall? Mexico. But Mexico ain't paying for it. But now I'm paying for it and I don't even have no income coming in because of this wall. Like, I don't even really care if we have a wall. I don't even know where the wall gonna be, right? And people don't understand all that involved with building this wall, taking people's property, you know, messing up the farmers' crops and all of this stuff. And then, you know, when we have a reduced level of crops, that means that the crops that do make it through, the prices go up. And so, you know, it's not just about a wall. And it's not, you know, and Nancy already said no, no, and hell no. So go sit down and stop talking to me about that wall. And so, you know, I'm going to tell you, that State of the Union thing had me screaming because Nancy said very nicely, I really think you should not do the State of the Union address until the government reopens. And he thought he had the biggest pair. Oh, I'm going to come anyway. She said, oh, wait a minute, hold on. This my house. Oh, this my house. I control the lights. I control the sound system. You'll be up in here in the dark. Oh, you ain't coming over. Come over here and see what happened. She was like, oh, let me write him another letter because he mistook the niceness for a weakness. And she came back with it. She was like, no, bro. Matter of fact, you ain't having no State of the Union address. Next thing I know, I woke up the next day, Trump said he ain't doing the State of the Union. I said, you think?
But let me ask you all something. I heard on the news that the D.C. metro system, Maryland metro system, and Virginia metro system, I guess, was going to start on Monday, giving all federal government workers who were working at the time free rides. Do you think that's still going to be implemented, or what? Have you heard anything further?
It don't
about
necessarily need to be implemented because most federal workers who ride the metro, they get transit subsidy.
Yep.
And the transit subsidy
What's
for
going to end?
Well, it depends on where you work,
Right.
right? So get information for your agency,
Yes.
right? But a lot of agencies, the transit subsidy was good through February.
Okay.
So
Okay.
people have money on their transit subsidy card to get to work. So it's really no need to do that at this point.
And what about the people, even the people who are furloughed, they still have access to their transit subsidy cards? Okay.
Yes.
They do.
Yeah, they have a
Okay.
smart trip
Right.
card.
They have a smart trip
Okay.
card.
And
That's
it's
nothing.
automatically loaded on there.
And I know from our agency perspective that it was the same time frame, so it wouldn't affect. But you know, in our agency, while there is metro, we're in the suburban Maryland,
Right.
So everybody has free parking.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah, they don't cover your gas.
Let me ask you this: Are your
an hour and a half one way.
Exactly. Are your agencies going to do any type of financial? I don't know,
Seminar?
training?
Oh, yeah, we are.
or
We are planning for
fortitude,
that.
Something
And
just to get people, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 weeks.
Right.
So what is that going to look like?
Yeah, we're bringing somebody in-house.
Okay.
And we're doing financial management seminars and stuff
Okay.
because, it's needed.
Well, absolutely, and I think if you can pass me on the information, I'll pass it to my leadership because I think it's critical. One of the things that I want to shout out visionary initiatives right now.
Yes.
They had Vision Speaks, and it was talking about empowerment.
Yes.
And Dr. Crater was on one of the panel, and I'm the chief operating officer for that company. And my wife is the
That's right.
CEO. Hallelujah.
That's
So I want to state that we do need to be better prepared, because one thing I said to a friend of mine, I said, while I had a small slush fund,
Right.
and I have a pretty big family.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Amen.
Beautiful
I
family.
have 4 girls and 1 boy, 5 kids.
That's right.
So we needed to be better prepared. So what is it? Now, I'm not messing with my 529B and my 401, and I'm not messing with TSP. But what I'm saying is that we needed to have a better plan, because we do not want anybody dictating to us how we're going to live, right? And until Congress changes this law or the ability for a president to shut down public service, and as long as I'm still considered a public servant, I need to ensure that we are financially sound.
Right.
So, I know our church does certain things, and that is financial seminars, but, I think that's a wonderful idea what your agency is doing. And if you can pass that information.
Right.
And if anybody out there that's listening right now or tuning in, please pass that information to this group here, to this community, so we can really share and engage.
Yes.
So one of the things I do started with my team is really started, and this was before the furlough. This is just part of who I am as a leader. Talking to them about financial responsibility and what that means, how you can do it, and what it looks like, right? Because people spend all that they have for whatever reasons. Right? It could be just whatever they make is just not enough. But, we all have things that we do that are not necessities. And so I just ask each person listening, if you just take $20 a pay period, every time you get paid, just take $20 and have it go into an account that you don't have a debit card to.
Amen.
So that you can't easily access it because somebody called you, said you want to go out to happy hour. You don't have no money, but you got this money sitting over here, so you're going to spend that, and then you're going to put it back, and then you don't ever put it back. Don't go in that cycle, right? I already know, been there, done that. Have some money, because if you do that, a year from now, if something happens to you, you at least have something. So, if you go out, if you spend money on lunch every day, cut back 2 days a week.
Federal government.
I take my lunch most
That's
days
expensive.
because I have a child, right? I have a 16-year-old who had no idea that this impacted him. His lifestyle didn't change at all, because I said to him one day, because he was steady asking for stuff. I was like, I didn't get my check right. I said, y'all talking about this in school? He said, not really. That's the first problem. And I said, well, I didn't get my paycheck. He was like, oh, okay. Can I get some gas money? Because I still got somewhere I need to be. Can I go to the movies? Can I go skating? Can I? And so, and me having a conversation with him about, this is what this means, right? And this is why you cannot spend all that you have. So this was a teachable moment for these kids that we're raising who don't know anything about a struggle. Right? It's our responsibility to show them when we're going through something, don't protect them from it. Just be transparent with it. Although he didn't change his behavior, I changed mine. Right?
Yes.
That's probably messed up, right? It probably don't even make sense. He didn't change his behavior. He don't work. He don't bring no money in the house, but I had to change mine. I work.
But
that's a whole nother story.
But what I would like to say? I would like to say that people were paying attention. Yes. And I'm going to say, we know that people are going back to the drawing board tomorrow, but please continue to pay attention. And I would also say, just like you were saying, your team still work together in teams and talk about finances. Even if you can't afford a financial planner, I mean, it's just so much information out there. Work together to help each other to plan better for your finances.
Absolutely.
And Corey.
Well, two things. First and foremost, we all have to be accountable for what we do. And I think Sherelle was kind of leading to that, and definitely leading to that. As having 4 little girls at home, they want to know, well, can I get the pizza? Can I get pizza? I'm like, no, we're going to have pork and beans and hot dogs. This is what's happening right here. But to that point, it goes back to, self-assessment. What can I have done better in this situation? Me being a spiritual person and leaning on God and understanding that at no time. And actually, Dr. Cradle called and says, hey, how you guys doing? I was like, we're good. Yeah. I said, everybody calling us, checking on us. I said, well, you all got 4 babies. Kids. We got 4 babies, but when I said we were good, we were like, God got this. And we were, at least, as being a leader in my home, I would not allow it to get us down. Or so we, my wife said, well, I'm concentrate more on my company. That gave me time to focus on my company. I said, amen. It gave me more time to spend with the kids and help her with this body training thing. Lord, help me with that. Somebody give me somebody email me on that. Please. The 3-year-old won't go to the bathroom. Help a brother out, okay? Come on.
That's why you're ready to go back to work.
Right.
And Monday is my telework day, and I'm going back like this. So understand that it was self-assessment. Self-assessment and understanding that, okay, what can we do better? Not as a husband and as a family member, but as a friend. And I have friends called, throughout, the East Coast, hey, man, you're good, you're good. God bless y'all for reaching out and touching me, because it meant more that you just had that thought and awareness to call and make sure I was okay. But understand that now it's about lessons learned. And one of the things that I'm preparing at my agency is a lessons learned. And I'm doing it in my household first, and then I'm going to take it to
the job.
Take it to the job. And one of the things is that looking at senior leadership and saying, okay, why did we need this person here to talk about policy when policy is already directed at OPM?
Well, you know what? I ain't worrying about what they doing. I'm only worrying about what I'm doing. Because I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do and how I respond to what other people do. So, of course, we ain't talking about no R. Kelly, because, this took up the whole hour, just as I suspected it would. And it's an important topic. So we want to thank you all once again for tuning in. We hope that you found this helpful to you.
Yes.
I say, keep on the lookout, right? Just stay on the lookout. And if, God forbid, if the government shuts down in 3 weeks, when you know better, you do better.
That's it. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Hosted by me, Dr. Sharon Cradle and Sherelle Higgins. We will be discussing intriguing, intricate, inspirational, informative, and intelligent topics with our individual twists and talents.
We will present real stories, real solutions, and engage in real talk.
So we invite you to be our company every Sunday afternoon at 3:00 p.m. as we focus on transcendent thinking that will move you forward. You become the company you keep.
What company do you keep? Oh yeah, we are biological sisters by way of the South Side of Chicago. So get ready to keep company with us and our guests as we talk about it.